Sex discrimination. So again, on its face, refusal to hire or promote someone because of their gender. But the bigger side of this that's really taken on a life of its own legally is sexual harassment. And again, they break down sexual harassment into sort of two types. The first is what's called quid pro quo, which is Latin, which means one thing for the other. Okay. Quid pro quo harassment is when a person makes something in the job dependent upon sort of sexual activity. It doesn't have to be actual sex, you know. It could be like you know, go on a date with me, and you know, I'll make sure that promotion happens for you, right? That would be a clear case of quid pro quo harassment. So it's usually done by a boss to a subordinate, right? Because they have power and they're trying to use that power to gain some sort of sexual favor from someone. But it can be done from peer to peer at times too. You know, I can make sure that you know, as long as the people have been around, they have been leveraging their power to get other people to do things for them, whether it's financial or sexual or whatever. That seems to be an unfortunate history of the human race. People leverage their power to force others to do things they don't want to do. The second is called hostile work environment. And hostile work environment is where you create this place where work is so hostile to somebody based on sexual talk, imagery, or behavior that it makes it hard for people to work, or you know, it interferes with their ability to work is the wording. One time, you guys want to hear the story about when I was sexually harassed in a hostile work environment way? No, this is the reaction of my wife was to laugh at me. And actually, I went and talked to my boss about it, and he laughed at me, right? So now I was like, I had no recourse. So this happened here at EAC. And it was early in my career here. I was the director of the Small Business Development Center. And what's interesting about hostile work environment is it doesn't have to be someone who's a superior to you. This is someone who worked in a totally different area, had no control over but so, and in the beginning it was kind of like, well, that was weird, but then it like became weirder and weirder. So I'm walking down the hall and there's a lady standing there talking to another lady. I didn't know either of them well. And she turns to me as I walk by and she says, hey, aren't you that guy that has 8 kids? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, if my husband looked like you, I'd have 8 kids too. Right? And so I thought it was like a joke, right? So it was kind of like, okay, like thanks, I guess, or whatever. And I went on my way. And I think if it had just been that wouldn't be harassment. That may have been an inappropriate comment that one person would take as a joke, funny, and another person might be like, what does that mean? And I thought it was kind of a joke. Okay, you know, thanks. I guess it's flattering. I know I'm svelte. And if it had stopped there, it'd been fine. But then this lady started like seeking me out. She would like, you know, give me little looks or a little whistle when I walk by. On Valentine's Day, she brought a little heart-shaped cloisonne box to me in my office, and just thought I might like to have that. And suddenly, like when I would see her, I'd feel sick to my stomach. Is that weird? Like I would try to avoid her. Like if I would see her talking to somebody, I would like go all the way around another way to not have to walk past her. Right? And so this is becoming a hostile work environment. Like I can't function in my job because I'm kind of so weirded out by this. So I go to my wife and she's like, I think you're pretty hot too, you know, haha. And like, and so there's this part of your brain that's going like this is dumb for me to be that worried about this, like seriously. And then this other part of my brain that's like, I see her and I feel sick and I don't know how to respond to that. So there was never any expectation of anything from a quid pro quo standpoint. There was never like I was going to lose my job or a fear of that. I went to my boss and he was like, you know, like, well, when a woman finds most guys attractive, they find that flattering, right? And that's true. So now flip the tables. And now you've got a woman who's receiving that sort of treatment. I think in the era we're in right now, that would be taken far more seriously, right? And either one should be taken seriously. But also, um, if you flip it even more and you say, now this is, say, the woman's boss, and she's worried that, like, if I don't sort of at least pretend like I appreciate his advances, then I could lose my job, or I could face, and I guess that could happen to a man too. But we tend to see it most often. I know this is a big shocker. Most often it's men harassing women. That shocker? And most often it's a superior harassing a subordinate, or is sort of straight across, like the person who works in the cubicle next to you, that, he's just infatuated with you or whatever. So recognize that these are both ways that people can be sexually harassed and can sexually harass, and that, they're pretty legit. I'm in retrospect glad this happened to me, because now when I hear other guys going like, I was sexually harassed, because my attitude was always like, right, like, same thing, like my boss said, like, dude, is it nice to know someone finds you attractive, and it's like, whoa, no, it was just weird and uncomfortable. So it made me a little more sensitive, I guess, to the issue.